My name is Andy Pollard, Senior EPA Delivery Manager, and I'll be taking you through the additional flexibilities which have been agreed for the Customer Service Practitioner Level 2 EPA and Customer Service Specialist Level 3. So just some background to the temporary flexibilities. The Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education have identified a range of standards whereby EPA components cannot be undertaken safely. Customer Service Practitioner Level 2 and Customer Service Specialist Level 3 are one of the many different EPAs where a review of the current face-to-face observation component has been undertaken. So the reason why the observed component is proving to be problematic is because many organisations aren't currently working in normal practice as a result of COVID-19. And again, apprentices are either stuck waiting to go through Gateway or are in the EPA period. To identify and address some of these issues, the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, Ofqual as the external quality assurance provider, and a range of endpoint assessment organisations have all been brought together in a task force. So the purpose of the task force was to really understand how apprentices could be assessed in light of current situations, look at how a valid, comparable, reliable assessment method could be used to evidence the criteria within the observed component. And as a result of a collective agreement, a set of common standards or common principles have been devised. As we'll go through the slides, we'll be talking about what these common principles relate to and key pieces of information which will make sure that the apprentice's assessment remains valid and in line as much as possible to the requirements of the assessment plan. It's important to note that Ofqual have authenticated the common principles, and as a result, the guidance that we've received from Ofqual has been built into the assessment process and the different assessment documents, which I'll be able to talk through very shortly. So as I've mentioned, this webinar is focused at the Level 2 and Level 3 EPAs. Where we do have additional flexibilities for different EPAs, there are bespoke webinars, again on the Pearson website. So then they will talk you through the specifics of the flexibilities relevant to different endpoint assessments. So taking a moment just to identify what is the temporary flexibility that could be applied. So as we know, the observed component is unable to be implemented during this current time, and it's been replaced by an expert witness testimony. So within the expert witness testimony, there isn't a word count, but it must cover the criteria at either a modular level or a group level. And we'll touch on these two terms in a later slide when we look at how the documentation is structured at both these levels. The expert witness testimony will need to create a document, a transcript, a source of information, which will then help Pearson's independent endpoint assessor question, probe, further clarify the situation with the apprentice. Now, it's important to note that the additional components within the Level 2 and Level 3 EPAs have not been affected. By this, what I mean is for the Level 2, the showcase will still be assessed in exactly the same way, albeit remotely, and the professional discussion again will be undertaken remotely. It is only the observed elements of both level of EPA that will be affected by this temporary flexibility. So we've spoke about the witness testimony, and the key things that it needs to include are evidence of how the apprentice has acted in situations to evidence the various criteria. So the key focus here is how has the apprentice demonstrated the knowledge, skills and behaviours as directed by the criteria in the assessment documentation. Some situations may cover many criteria, so where that happens, holistic assessment is permitted and is encouraged. We do need to see a minimum of 2 examples to be referenced. Again, from a reliability perspective, we need to be able to clearly demonstrate how the apprentice has undertaken different activities over a period of time. And to support that, the witness must include dates of when the apprentice has been observed. Witnesses may choose to write or audio record their account. That is absolutely fine. However, the focus is on quality. So it's the quality of evidence that will be required to best support the apprentice and best support the independent endpoint assessor in their 30-minute Q&A session. As I've mentioned previously, there is no word count. However, there will need to be sufficient evidence for then an informed assessment decision to be made. If we just take a look at the level 2 observation criteria, on the left hand side we can see the different criteria reference numbers, and then in the middle column we can see the performance requirements. So when the expert witness is recording the apprentice's interactions, the expert witness will need to take note of the performance requirements. So for criteria 6, how has the apprentice adapted their tone of voice, behaviour and language to meet the specific needs of customers protected under the Equality Act? So in this instance, if an apprentice has been dealing with a pregnant individual, how did they adapt the tone of voice, behaviour and language? How did they best support that customer during that interaction? Now, we do have 2 templates, one for apprentices who work in a face-to-face environment and one template for apprentices that work in a non-face-to-face environment. It's important to note that the correct template is used because there are some subtle differences with the performance requirements depending on whether the apprentice is in a face-to-face environment or a non-face-to-face environment. Again, when we look at the level 3, we have the performance requirements again in this middle column. So within the expert witness testimony record, there needs to be sufficient evidence to show how the apprentice has sought information from customers to fully assess situations. Now, bear in mind the different interactions, so we need a minimum of 2. So those 2 interactions could cover multiple performance requirements. So where that happens, holistic assessment is permitted and is encouraged. As a point to note, the expert witness won't be required to pass or award distinctions. That will be down to the independent endpoint assessor. So just looking at the documentation, as I mentioned previously, we do have the face-to-face and non-face-to-face documents. In this example, we've got a face-to-face document for the level 2. We have got the criteria reference on the left-hand side. We've then got the performance requirements. And then on the right-hand side, we've got expert witness testimony evidence to include dates. As these documents are Word documents, they will expand with the amount of detail provided through typed source. Again, the pass and distinction columns have been left in, so then it is clear for the expert witness to identify which criteria relates to either a pass or distinction criteria. As I mentioned previously, it will be the independent endpoint assessor that is using the evidence provided in this document, along with the question and answer from the apprentice, to then form an overall grade. So who can be an expert witness? So somebody who works in first line management of the apprentice or above. So in many organisations, apprentices will have a supervisor, they will have either a team leader or a direct line manager. They are all classed as expert witnesses. For apprentices that work alongside a colleague on the same management role, the colleague would not be classed as an expert witness. The expert witness needs to have a good understanding of the apprenticeship standard. In addition, they would need to have a good understanding of the performance requirements and therefore the grade criteria. The expert witness will have had to work with the apprentice for a minimum of 3 months during the apprentice's time on programme. So that 3 months could be at any stage of the apprentice's time whilst they've been in training, but we do require a declaration to be provided from the expert witness to confirm this. In addition, we do require confirmation from the expert witness that the account that they have provided is the true reflection of the apprentice's ability that has been observed in normal practice. Again, as a reminder, we're not expecting the expert witness to grade the evidence, but we do need to have sufficient detail to then help inform the independent endpoint assessor in their question and answer, but also support the apprentice to be able to recount the situations that have been provided. So after the expert witness has completed their assessment documentation, the independent endpoint assessor will then review the information in the document, organise the 30-minute question and answer session with the apprentice, and again this will be done through remote methods. And the purpose of the 30-minute Q&A session is to explore the apprentice's responses in detail. So the independent endpoint assessor will ask for further clarity or further detail to make sure that the observed outcomes are fully met. By doing that, it will confirm authenticity and validity to make sure that the apprentice has demonstrated the required knowledge, skills and behaviours within the assessment component, but also allow the apprentice opportunity to provide additional detail where required. As the 30-minute Q&A session will be done through remote methods, this will be audio and video recorded and uploaded as part of the normal assessment process to enable internal quality assurance to happen. We are using Zoom at the moment, however, we will soon be looking at using Microsoft Teams. If for whatever reason the apprentice is unable to access Zoom, we can always make arrangements for Microsoft Teams invite to be used. There is no requirement for apprentices to download any software. The links that we use for the remote assessments can all be done on the web. So we will make sure that there is no sort of download of apps or download of software required. So all the documentation can be found within ACE360, and on the left hand side of ACE360 you will see a new icon which looks like a document with a magnifying glass. This is known as knowledge base. Now, within the knowledge base for the level 2 and level 3, what you will find are all the additional resources documents, the specifications, the annex documents, but also you will see the guidance notes to the dispensation. So all that information can be downloaded directly from ACE, shared with the expert witness. The expert witness completes the witness testimony and then returns back to you, the training provider, ready to upload back into ACE 360. So once you've received the witness testimony documentation, you will then need to upload it into the apprentice's record within the shared area. Once you've done that, you must notify EPA delivery that the additional details have been uploaded. So the email address for EPA delivery is all one word, epadelivery@pearson.com. EPA delivery will then inform your independent endpoint assessor. The independent endpoint assessor will then start the planning and the scheduling process. So they will do the normal planning meeting. They will discuss any remote assessment requirements. And then on the day of endpoint assessment, they will have already reviewed the expert witness testimony, identified key sort of questions for the apprentice, and then during the assessment, record the apprentice's responses, and then it will fall into the normal 5 working day turnaround for results to be shared. As per normal, the results will be available within ACE 360, so the overall grade will be applied, and also the notification of results document will be in the shared area. So what are the next steps? As I've mentioned, all the information is on ACE 360 within the knowledge base, but to keep up to date with all of the flexibilities or changes, if you have a look at the qualifications.pearson.com webpage, you'll be able to see all the sort of guidance documents, consultations, Pearson's approach to different situations that are happening within the sector. And it is your one-stop shop to find out all the news and updates that are happening within the apprenticeship world. So if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to email EPA delivery. The email address is on screen. And what we'll also be doing is devising a frequently asked questions guide based on all the questions that have been asked throughout this session. And I'd just like to thank you for your attendance, and I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon.